I have the invitation talk. So if you would please turn with me to Second Kings chapter 5. I know that in our reading, as we are reading through the Old Testament in the year, that we've already read this part, but this is one of my favorite stories with one of my favorite people in the Bible. So we'll go through that. Second Kings chapter 5, we're looking at verses 1 through 8. Now Naaman, captain of the army of the king of Aram, was a great man with his master, and highly respected, because by him the Lord had given victory to Aram. The man was also a valiant warrior, but he was a leper. Now the Arameans had gone out in bands and had taken captive a little girl from the land of Israel, and she waited on Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, I wish that my master were with the prophet who is in Samaria. Then he would cure him of his leprosy. Naaman went in and told his master, saying, Thus and thus spoke the girl who is from the land of Israel. Then the king of Aram said, Go now, and I will send a letter to the king of Israel. He departed and took with him 10 talents of silver and 6,000 shekels of gold and 10 changes of clothes. Verse 6. He brought the letter to the king of Israel, saying, And now, as this letter comes to you, behold, I have sent Naaman, my servant, to you, that you may cure him of his leprosy. When the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes and said, Am I God to kill and to make alive? That this man is sending word to me to cure a man of his leprosy? But consider now and see how he is seeking a quarrel with me. Verse 8. It happened when Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, that he sent word to the king, saying, Why have you torn your clothes? Now let him come to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel. Usually, when we go through and we read this story, we focus on Naaman, we focus on Elisha, and we see a lesson about faith and grace. And usually, we make a connection to dipping in the water with baptism, which is a connection that the church has made from the beginning. But instead, I want to focus on two other people. I want to focus on the servant girl and on this king of Israel. Now, if we look at this servant girl's situation, she is a captive, she is a slave, a foreigner in another land. She is female and she's a girl, she's a child. So she has all of these things stacked against her, if you will. She is in a position of weakness. But yet, even though she is in this position of weakness, she sees a situation and she calls out, only you saw Elisha, right? She boldly talks to her captors, the people that are have enslaved her, have torn her away from her family, and said, guess what? I have a solution for you. And she speaks out with boldness. And when you think about it further, like, what is her motivation? Why would she do this? Out of love for the very people that took her away from her family? But yet she responds in love and grace and mercy, sharing this message when there's no benefit to her. If anything, maybe they might just tell her, shut up, who are you? But yet she shares this message and says, God can take care of you. And Naaman, to his credit, believes her. And he goes and he talks to his king, who sends a message to the king of Israel. Now we have the second person in the story that I like to cover, this king of Israel. Um, it's not listed here in chapter 5, but if you see in chapter 3, we don't have to turn to there, his name, Jehoram. And if you go back and you read chapter 3, you see that he's aware that Elisha exists. He's actually gone to consult with him in the past. But here he's faced with this problem, and he sees this, and immediately he thinks, woe is me, what can I do? And I have to confess that I see myself sometimes in that king of Israel. When faced with a problem, I just think about myself and what can I do? How can I handle that, instead of doing what he should have done and turn to God? And so here we have someone who, unlike the servant girl, is the most powerful person in his country. He's the king. If there's this war that he's worried about, he's not in danger, not like most of the rest of the people, he with a position of power and strength just gives up and says, I can't handle this. I don't know what to do this. So much so that Elisha has to hear about it. And Elisha says, you send him here. You send him over here and he'll see a man of God. So what can we learn from this? We can learn that we should be able to speak out, that we should be able to share the good news that we have, even if we seem weak, even if we are in a position of weakness. We should be as bold as this servant girl. And we should also share out of a sense of love and mercy to those around us, even if they don't deserve it. Because truth be told, we know neither. And what we shouldn't do is to be like this king, that when faced with problems, when faced with difficulties, did not turn to the one person that could help him, did not turn to God and say, help me out, save me, help me, but had to have someone come and tell him. So I ask you to think on this, to meditate on this, look on this, and as we have these two examples in our life, to follow the one that we should and not the one that we shouldn't. I ask you to think on these things as we stand and as we sing.